From the Vault is sponsored by Vita Coffee and Wine Bar in downtown Sandusky, where the elite meet to eat. Visit us in person or on the web at vitasandusky.com.
Welcome to From the Vault, Leadership Lessons You Can Bank On. I'm Paul Ward. I'm with my friend Tony Legando, who is a longtime educator, 40 plus years, right, Coach?
That's correct.
Variety of schools, but all elementary, is that right?
All elementary and then a little varsity football after. So I had to adjust from 10-year-olds to 16, 17 on the way to the stadium, which took about 2 minutes. So
that is a pretty interesting contrast.
Yes. Well, the beauty of it is I had the kids, most of them in fourth grade, when they're 10 years old, so you get to know them. Kids have a tendency to know how to hide who they are when they're a sophomore or junior in high school. I know who they are, so it's tough fooling a guy that's been around them for that long. Plus, in all those camps we had along the way, you get to know them. So it's, I think there's a positive side to it, without a doubt.
Well, I'm starting a podcast, and I am glad that you're able to join me. The whole world wants to do a podcast. Why not me? What do you think?
Well, I think you have the right personality for it. I think it could get a little crazy. Why am I thinking right now about drunk history? I'm just not. No, but I think you're a natural for this. I think you should take it and run with it.
Well, I appreciate that. We'll see where it goes. But one of the things I want to do is provide folks some entertainment, but I want to hone in on something that matters to us all also, and that's leadership. And that's why we're going to call this Leadership Lessons You Can Bank On from the Vault. We're actually here in downtown Sandusky at Vita, and we're going to have a conversation about people, about stories, but it's going to revolve around leadership. Now, as I mentioned, Tony Legando is a longtime educator, but also author, speaker. You've done about 100 speeches, right?
Just in the last few years, business, schools, whatever. I mean, I've spoke to a group of 8 people and I've spoke to 1,200. So, but where you say have a podcast for leadership, if I'm getting all these speaking engagements and everything, I mean, people want to know. So I think it's a good catch for it.
How did that get started for you?
With the speaking?
Yes.
Well, I think, a lot of banquets and a lot of parents who were at the banquets. And I had a gal approach me about, hey, I'd like to help you get started on that. And it just comes like this will come natural to you. It just comes natural for me. And then when you see how much people want to learn about leadership, and all I do is share stories really from people who I've learned leadership from the kids that were this high to the kids that are this high, to family, guys I coached with, guys I taught with. So I think there's something there, but it amazes me how much even big businesses want to know, how can we approach these young people better, get them into leadership programs, and I don't know. So it had just evolved that way and more through word of mouth than really advertising.
I see. Well, I asked the question, how did you get into public speaking? How did you become so interested in leadership?
Well, when you coach for 40 years, that's what you try to teach the team. Here's what I think. Everybody out there who coaches, they want to know about X's and O's, and that's it. And those guys don't last very long because coaching for me, teach somebody what we're doing in a heartbeat. We spend a weekend. But it's the guys who I sit down with, the young coaches, and they want to know about leadership. Those are the guys that are going to make it, because I learned early on, okay, I can be the leader. Well, that's not enough. What if I'm not connecting with a kid? So teach everybody how to be a leader. Then you got a whole bunch of people trying to bring the group together. And you know about peer pressure, Paul. I mean, that's the toughest, the biggest pressure out there. So teach kids how to lead, put some of the pressure on them to communicate with the teammates. And the next thing you know, you got a whole locker room full of guys that get it. They understand that that's what this is. It's not about just the X's and O's. It's about bringing people together and getting them headed in the right direction.
I do believe leadership comes in a lot of forms, but I also believe it can be taught and learned. Certainly, there may be such a phenomenon as a natural leader. Speak to that a little bit. Natural leadership. Are you really just born with something, or did they learn it at a young age from home? And how can leadership skills be enhanced while a young person's growing up?
Yeah, well, what I'm thinking of right when you said that, Paul, is we tell guys to be leaders, but we don't teach them how to be leaders. Somehow you have to have an action plan where, okay, we're going to talk about it, and then we're going to get an action plan, which for us, as coaches, is through your practice plan, through the talks that you have with them. So I think there are natural leaders or guys that it comes easier to. But what you want to do is use those guys, and I say that in a positive sense, to help you communicate with the others that don't have a background for it. The guys who came to us that were great leaders, mom and dad did a good job. They've taught them what they need to know about being a part of a team. What about the guys that don't get it, that haven't been prepared for that at home? Teach it, but not just talk. You got to get out there, and then on a football field, it's kind of easy. You have that to work with. You have that tool, that goal that we can all try to win a ball game, and then you teach them how to. So, yeah, you can teach it out of a book, but you better have an action plan with what you're talking to them about in that book. If I go and I speak, and all I do is tell them how to lead, you got to give them, specifics about this is the way you do it.
When I think of leadership, I also think of the presence of good leadership, the presence of bad leadership, and what that looks like, and the absence of leadership. I do see bad leadership as different than simply a lack of leadership. Have you seen that in your career as an educator?
Yeah, a lot. And the old what they talk about is you can learn a lot from someone who's not a good leader, and you really can sit back and think to yourself, "Whoa, I'm not going to go that route with it." But again, I'll go back to just the thought that you have to zero in on it. You can't just stumble upon, hey, there's a good example of leadership. You got to think every day how to connect with these guys, every day how to teach them to evolve to become leaders. So you need to surround yourself with guys who have that same philosophy, not the same X's and O philosophies. You and I disagreed about things as we went along, but never about how to work with the kids, how you want them handled. So as a head coach or as a teacher, you always have to set the pattern for how you want to bring everybody together. Like hiring coaches, they better follow your leadership philosophy or you got to get rid of them. The old adage, and who was that coach from Michigan? You and I have talked about this before. Jerry Hanlon. When he said, you coaches here at this clinic he was talking, you all think team chemistry is the most important thing going. He said, no, it's not. What's the most important thing is coaching chemistry so that the kids can see this is the way you're supposed to do it, the way the coaches get along. Because if you don't, that'll filter down. Next thing you know, your team's not getting along. We never had much problem with team chemistry. We never had much problem with bringing the kids together because we spent so much time on teaching them how to lead, not just yapping about it, but actually teaching them this is the way it's done.
That's interesting when you talk about yapping about it. I think of vocal leaders, but I think of high quality leaders that I've encountered in various aspects of my professional career, my personal life, the high quality leaders who were not so vocal. So being loud, being vocally assertive is not necessarily a component of great leadership. There are quiet leaders, and we've all had experiences with those. So what are the components, I guess, that you've observed across the board that always exist in high quality leadership?
Well, I've often said that high school kids, but you can take this into the business world, you can take it anywhere. Okay, they know fake right away. So if you're at the top and you're spewing some stuff and they're scratching their head thinking, wait a minute, you know, this isn't the way it goes. This isn't. So I think what you need to do is be authentic. When I took over for Coach Manafo, I can't be Coach Manafo. Nobody could, okay? So I better approach it with my own philosophies, with what I'm comfortable with. Because if you don't, people will see through it and then it's not going to work. Some of the best leaders I've had have been very quiet, but when they talked, everybody listened. And I think that's something I've spent a lot of time on is if it's not natural to you, that's not your approach. It has to come from with who you are. You and I have a different approach with kids. You can walk into a locker room in 5 minutes, you've got them eating out of your hand. Me, I stay a little more distant because that's where I'm comfortable. And I can't develop that relationship as quick as you do. It's got to come over time. But head coaches have a little bit different challenge than assistants. But that's the key. When you walk into a locker room, Paul, you were yourself. When I walk into a locker room, I hope that I was myself. Not that you and I don't have flaws. I mean, you can't have more problems in life or made more mistakes in life than I have. But I think that helps us when a kid or some business guy has the same problems. Well, you really can relate to them because you've been there, you've done that. And I used to tell our kids in the locker room all the time, guys, I'm not preaching to you. I've made more mistakes in life than you have, but it gives me a little bit different outlook and maybe a better understanding of what you're going through. And I think kids appreciate that. I know they do. I know grown-ups do the same when they're in business.
College football is going on now, and I want to talk to you a little bit about that insofar as leadership is concerned. But first, let me say welcome to the Vault. Leadership lessons you can bank on. We're here at Vita, downtown Sandusky on Columbus Avenue.
From the Vault is sponsored by Vita Coffee and Wine Bar in downtown Sandusky, where the elite meet to eat. Visit us in person or on the web at vitasandusky.com. From the Vault is produced by Lake Erie TV. Watch us, like us, and follow us at lakeerie.tv.